has been nearly a week since the release of Sonic Frontiers: The Final Horizon, and within that time span I was able to release a review going over the intricacies of this particular update. However, in the comment section, some of you guys thought I was being too negative. So in today's video, I'm going to go over a couple things that I really do love about this update. First things first, I gotta clear this one out of the way. I love being able to play as different characters again. You know, I like Sonic the Hedgehog and all, and I think he's a great character, and his moveset in Frontiers is actually really awesome, but over the course of several years of just only being able to play as Sonic or classic Sonic in the 3D titles, I've grown a little tired of that, and I do want to see other characters be playable, as there are some that I actually care about maybe a little bit more than Sonic. Like, for example, I would love a Shadow the Hedgehog game where it maybe plays the same way as Sonic Frontiers, but has a different moveset, and it's centered around Shadow the Hedgehog. That game would be peak to me. I would love that. So in the case of Sonic Frontiers, where we have characters like Tails, Knuckles, and Amy playable in this update alone, is really cool to me, and it gives me a little bit more hope for the future that we could see more of this going forward. Not just Tails, Knuckles, and Amy, but maybe more of the mainline Sonic cast. I also like the way in which Sonic Frontiers handles its playable characters, where you can only use specific characters for a particular spot on Oranos' map. Red areas are designated for Knuckles, yellow is for Tails, and pink is obviously for Amy. This kind of distribution throughout Oranos makes you kind of have to learn the maneuvering of the characters, which I kind of found to be pretty fun. Another thing I really liked about these characters is that they are really distinct in their movesets. No character plays exactly the same. There definitely is some overlap between these characters, but it's really not that noticeable. The bottom line here is, when you play as Tails, it doesn't feel the same way as when you play as Knuckles or anybody else. Keeping all of that in mind, I think the maneuvering is probably my favorite part about these characters. When you unlock the power boost for all three of them, you'll really see how different traversing the island actually is, and how much fun it can be. Amy does this pretty cool thing where she basically rides on her Pico Pico hammer with her terror cars just kind of spinning around her, making it look like she's like on some sort of cool bicycle or something. And then you got Tails, who's using the Cyclone 2 from Sonic Adventure 2, and then you also have Knuckles, who basically just glides super fast in the sky without having to fall at all. I think unlocking these power boosts and just having these new characters with different ways of traversing the island makes Oranos feel fresh and new once again. I'm not gonna lie to you, I felt like when I first saw Oranos would be the area we were exploring again with these characters, I was a little underwhelmed because there really didn't seem to be that much different with it. But when you have all of these special spots designated for specific characters, and also the way in which these characters move, it makes the island feel like a new island, which I think worked really well. On an unrelated note, I think another thing that really kept the fire for this update going for me was not only the story, but also the character dynamics and interactions. Outside of the IDW comics, we don't really see these three characters specifically interact without Sonic's presence. The Final Horizon does a good job of reminding you that these three characters are more than just, let's do this because Sonic is here too. You know, it makes it feel like they're more than just surface value characters who are just supposed to be there because the story tells them to be. In particular, I really like the dynamic that Tails and Knuckles seem to display in this game, because it just seemed like they had like a brotherhood feel going on there, with Knuckles feeling like the older brother, sort of looking after Tails and making sure he was okay with a couple cutscenes, and that made me feel like there's more to these characters that I would like to see expanded on in future games. Continuing on with my point of loving the story, I liked how Sonic had to go through these tests that the Cocos were putting him through, basically testing his strength and seeing how strong he really is. If you guys remember from the original final boss of Sonic Frontiers, Sonic was basically calling out to the Ancients for help and really relying on them, but I think what made that really weird was that Sonic had no prior interaction with them. He had only just seen them from history through visions that he had had when unlocking towers or defeating Titans. When we look at this scene, we see Sonic ask the Ancients for help, but we don't see anything come from that. But with Update 3, Sonic is able to actually ask them for help because they're granting him power. We see the fruits of his labor kind of manifest themselves throughout the ending of the game, where we see him unlock this new form called Super Sonic 2, which has been confirmed through leaked files. I thoroughly enjoyed how everyone in this Update 3 had a role to play. No one felt slighted, and everyone felt equally important to some extent. With the original ending of Sonic Frontiers, Tails, Knuckles, and Amy are no longer present after you complete Rhea Island. They do that one scene where they basically are able to bring Sonic back to reality and seal themselves away again, and at that point, they're no longer necessary for the story. They don't have any more role to play outside of just saving Sonic, essentially. However, this update keeps the whole self-sacrificial scene and also gives them more things to do after it happens, because Sage is able to bring them back. And I really like that, not just because it gave these characters more of a role to play, but we also get to see what they want to do kind of enacted. In other words, when we saw Tails basically talk about how he was going to step into himself more and having to go off on his own and become his own person and get stronger to Sonic on Chaos Island, we get to see him do that a little bit earlier than we initially expected with Update 3, because he actually has to go out and do that. And when he feels slightly discouraged, Knuckles is able to be the one to get him right back on track. What really made this work for me is that it wasn't just dreams said out loud from the characters, it was dreams that was actually put to action by these characters with Update 3. And finally, I have to say this about the story: I am so glad that the ending itself has been changed. Now, I'm not saying that the original ending of Sonic Frontiers was bad, but I think that in terms of already what it had done with the previous islands, it just seemed to fall flat. I mean, given what the story had already shown us thus far, and what we've seen previously done with Super Sonic in this game alone, I expected so much more, and I think Update 3 was able to deliver more than the final boss of the original game did. With the final boss, we were able to get a new form for Sonic, and also an actual Super Sonic boss fight. With the original game, we had, this little space mini-shooter kind of thing, which is still, I don't know, I would have loved to fight the end as Super Sonic, not the end inside of a Titan as Super Sonic as the final boss, but yeah, no, I'm still thinking that this ending is better than the original. And we also even got a, step above this new form with this Cyber Super Sonic, which I don't even think has a name, but it looks super cool. I wish we got to play as this. Switching gears here, I want to talk about something that I know a lot of people really weren't fans of that I actually really enjoyed, and that was scaling the towers. You see, on Rhea Island, they gave you a little bit more favoritism, where if you fell off, you'd be able to just kind of zip your way back up and get to some sort of halfway point, if you will. But on Aranos, that wasn't, the case. The game wasn't as generous with you there. If you fell off, you were starting over from the very beginning again, which I know to some can be really tedious and annoying, and I understand that, but I really liked these towers. I found them to be a lot of fun, and I didn't think they were too challenging. For me, I believe the real challenge kicked in as soon as I reached the top of the tower and had to do one of the trials given by the Ancients. Yeah, that's where they lost me. But they did not lose me on that soundtrack. I think every song within that track is an absolute banger. Also, it's really cool how they gave lyrics to I'm With You. I mean, it didn't need lyrics, but now that we have it, I can't imagine it without it. Overall, I really appreciated just how cinematic Update 3 was. The Final Horizon, for sure, was a fun time. But now I want to know what you guys think. What is one thing you love about Sonic Frontiers: The Final Horizon? Let me know all of your thoughts in the comment section down below. And also, if you enjoyed this video, don't forget to leave a like on it, subscribe to the channel, and turn on the post notifications bell so you never miss a video from me. You guys do not want to miss what I have to say. But with all that said and done, this is Sonic signing out. Have a super blessed day, y'all.
Why are you playing that trash?